Gavel down. Overruled. The courtroom smirked, until she set a small metal badge on the bench, and the room fell silent. What was she forbidden to say, and who tried to bury it? Today, we follow the trail that badge exposes. She sat quietly in the witness box watching the defense attorney pace across the mahogany-paneled federal courtroom, while her prepared testimony remained locked behind classification protocols that prevented disclosure of intelligence operations. Her civilian clothes and unremarkable appearance concealing specialized training from the Defense Intelligence Agency's Classified Operations Division, where she had spent 7 years conducting surveillance missions that officially never existed. According to congressional oversight committees and federal accountability offices, other courtroom observers shifted restlessly through the afternoon proceedings with the mundane attention that characterized routine federal litigation, their conversations mixing with the electronic hum of recording equipment and ventilation systems that maintain the complex security infrastructure supporting the most sensitive classified testimony protocols ever developed within the federal judicial system. But through the courtroom's advanced audio system that normally carried routine legal proceedings and evidentiary presentations, Judge Harrison's authoritative voice suddenly shattered the procedural calm with words that made every attorney in the gallery freeze in recognition and growing concern about constitutional implications. The witness will refrain from any testimony regarding classified operations, national security matters, or intelligence activities, as such disclosure would violate federal law and compromise ongoing investigations that remain under executive privilege protection. Intelligence analyst Chen felt her security clearance badge grow heavy in her jacket pocket as she processed the impossible legal ruling. Her testimony contained evidence of criminal conspiracy that threatened national security, and no judicial order should prevent disclosure of intelligence that could protect American citizens from ongoing threats that exceeded current law enforcement capabilities. The judge was silencing testimony about operations that had uncovered domestic terrorism networks, using classification protocols to prevent evidence that could save lives and expose criminal activities that had infiltrated the highest levels of government and military contracting organizations. From which federal courthouse around the country are you following this classified testimony story today? If you appreciate narratives that explore intelligence operations and the buried evidence within national security databases, consider subscribing for more content that reveals the constitutional conflicts that emerge when classified truth confronts judicial authority. The United States District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia occupied 47 floors of strategically positioned federal territory within the Washington metropolitan area. Its classified hearing facilities and intelligence testimony protocols representing the most sophisticated judicial security environment protecting American national security litigation through specialized courtroom technology, electromagnetic isolation systems, and advanced evidence protection procedures. The courthouse served as the primary judicial venue for intelligence-related litigation, combining federal court authority, classified evidence procedures, and specialized security protocols that provided unprecedented protection for national security testimony while maintaining constitutional due process requirements for sensitive cases involving intelligence operations and classified government activities. Located within multiple federal security perimeters, the installation had been constructed with classified communication systems and constitutional protection measures designed to prevent unauthorized access to intelligence testimony that exceeded standard judicial capabilities and threatened ongoing national security operations. The courthouse judicial architecture incorporated decades of advancement in constitutional law and classified evidence methodology, including underground secure communication centers, intelligence protection systems, and automated classification algorithms that could generate infinite legal scenarios without human intervention when necessary for protecting ongoing intelligence operations and national security investigations. Advanced processing systems analyze testimonial data from hundreds of witnesses simultaneously, creating four-dimensional legal profiles that tracked individual responses while distinguishing between authentic constitutional testimony and compromised evidence that could indicate judicial manipulation or intelligence agency interference with legitimate court proceedings. Intelligence analyst Chen approached the witness stand carrying routine case materials and standard testimonial documentation, her security clearance providing access to classified information that few federal witnesses were authorized to present during their judicial careers. Though her current assignment to routine intelligence analysis seemed inconsistent with the extensive psychological evaluation required for her clearance level and constitutional testimony authorization. The screening process for her current position had required 48 months of federal investigation that examined every aspect of her cognitive patterns and loyalty assessments. Though investigators had encountered classified files that remained sealed at classification levels exceeding their authorization to review or evaluate for testimonial purposes. At 29 years old, she possessed specialized training from the Central Intelligence Agency's Counterintelligence Analysis Program, having completed classified coursework in domestic surveillance, constitutional interpretation, and experimental legal intelligence integration before her reassignment to conventional intelligence analysis following a program restructuring that had eliminated entire investigative teams and buried constitutional developments that exceeded current legal guidelines and congressional oversight capabilities. Her service record listed standard intelligence specialization and routine assignment history, though these official designations concealed counterintelligence expertise and operational experience that had been classified following constitutional concerns and judicial decisions that eliminated programs deemed too invasive for current legal frameworks and civil liberties protections. Her training background included instruction at intelligence facilities whose existence was denied by constitutional oversight committees, where federal contractors and legal scholars developed technologies that pushed the boundaries of constitutional interpretation and surveillance capabilities beyond traditional law enforcement boundaries. The program she had completed involved theoretical constitutional analysis, advanced legal mapping, and experimental civilian intelligence integration that prepared personnel for constitutional scenarios that conventional legal training could not address effectively. Her instructors had included Supreme Court clerks and former constitutional researchers whose experience encompassed decades of classified research into legal applications of intelligence gathering and constitutional interpretation technologies that exceeded current judicial understanding. The decision to accept reassignment to intelligence analysis rather than civilian employment had been influenced by contractual obligations and security requirements that prevented her from discussing or utilizing specialized knowledge gained through classified counterintelligence programs and constitutional interpretation research. Her presence within conventional intelligence units provided routine assignment and security oversight, while her legal background remained available for consultation on cases that required her specific expertise and security clearance levels that exceeded standard federal witness qualifications. Judge Margaret Harrison presided over the morning constitutional testimony session with authority gained through 18 years of federal judicial service and advanced education in classified evidence law. Her expertise encompassing complex intelligence interpretation and constitutional coordination that protected American legal superiority from increasingly sophisticated domestic terrorism and foreign intelligence systems threatening constitutional stability. Her background included judicial assignments throughout federal courts and liaison duties with intelligence organizations that developed next-generation constitutional interpretation technologies and legal framework protection systems. Her Federal Judicial Service Medal and multiple Constitutional Innovation Awards reflected exceptional performance in both judicial command and strategic legal development assignments that shaped American constitutional interpretation capabilities and intelligence oversight procedures. The judge's judicial career had evolved from conventional federal litigation to classified evidence coordination, including sensitive assignments with intelligence organizations and constitutional agencies that developed advanced legal systems and evidence protection technologies that maintained constitutional integrity against foreign intelligence threats. Her transition from standard federal cases to classified constitutional interpretation had been driven by recognition that modern legal warfare required technological sophistication and intelligence coordination that exceeded traditional judicial boundaries and required interdisciplinary expertise combining constitutional law with national security requirements. Around the classified courtroom table sat representatives from the Justice Department, Homeland Security, Defense Intelligence Agency, and various legal contractors. each contributing specialized expertise to constitutional interpretation and evidence protection procedures that maintained American legal superiority against emerging domestic terrorism capabilities and foreign constitutional manipulation attempts. The assembled group represented decades of collective experience in intelligence litigation, constitutional analysis, and legal development that maintained American constitutional dominance against advanced enemy legal systems and domestic threats to judicial independence. Federal Prosecutor David Martinez, the constitutional coordination specialist responsible for intelligence evidence assessment and testimony protocols, possessed 12 years of experience in classified legal systems and held security clearances that provided access to the most sensitive intelligence regarding domestic terrorism capabilities and constitutional manipulation methodologies employed by enemy intelligence services. His legal background included specialized training in intelligence law, constitutional algorithms, and evidence evaluation procedures that enabled prediction of enemy legal development patterns and coordination of appropriate constitutional responses to foreign judicial interference. Prosecutor Martinez's expertise bridged the gap between theoretical constitutional development and practical judicial requirements, translating advanced intelligence research into functional legal systems that prepared American courts while maintaining readiness for constitutional threats that might exceed current legal capabilities and traditional judicial protections. His role required constant evaluation of intelligence reports, legal assessments, and enemy constitutional capability estimates to ensure adequate judicial preparations for evolving intelligence threats and domestic terrorism legal challenges. The prosecution team under Martinez's coordination represented carefully selected specialists recruited from leading constitutional contractors and federal legal institutions, each bringing unique legal knowledge to the complex challenge of defending against increasingly sophisticated domestic terrorism legal systems while maintaining constitutional advantages that preserved American judicial superiority and legal independence. Their work remained largely classified, but their legal decisions directly influenced constitutional capabilities and judicial procedures that protected millions of American citizens from domestic and foreign legal manipulation attempts. Defense attorney Lisa Chong, the constitutional systems specialist responsible for evidence protection and constitutional tracking coordination, possessed extensive experience in classified legal operations and constitutional interpretation that enabled identification and classification of intelligence evidence through sophisticated legal networks and constitutional analysis procedures developed by federal legal scholars. Her understanding of constitutional technology encompassed both conventional evidence protection systems and experimental technologies that pushed the boundaries of current legal understanding and provided capabilities that exceeded standard judicial equipment and constitutional interpretation methodologies. The defense counsel's background included specialized training in constitutional research, evidence processing, and advanced legal methodologies that enabled identification of buried constitutional violations and legal patterns that enemy forces might employ to defeat conventional constitutional screening systems and judicial protections. Her responsibility for evidence protection required constant legal advancement and strategic thinking that anticipated enemy constitutional manipulation while maintaining legal effectiveness for emerging intelligence threats and domestic terrorism legal challenges. Your Honor, prosecution evidence indicates possible enemy development of advanced domestic terrorism systems with constitutional manipulation capabilities that exceed our current threat assessment models, Prosecutor Martinez reported, his voice carrying analytical precision that characterized professional constitutional evaluation and legal threat assessment. Intelligence sources suggest enemy development of legal interference systems with precision and constitutional manipulation capabilities that could challenge our existing judicial protocols, though specific legal details remain classified above our courtroom briefing level and constitutional interpretation authorization. His assessment reflected constant evolution of constitutional threats that characterized contemporary legal defense, where enemy forces continuously developed new constitutional manipulation technologies and legal tactics designed to defeat American judicial systems and create vulnerabilities that could be exploited during actual constitutional crises and legal emergency situations. The intelligence indicated legal advancement that required enhanced constitutional measures and updated evidence protocols to maintain judicial effectiveness and constitutional protection capabilities. The current threat assessment represented months of constitutional intelligence analysis that had identified patterns suggesting coordinated enemy research into advanced constitutional manipulation systems and legal interference countermeasures designed to compromise American judicial independence. Legal intelligence sources had reported development activities and testing programs that indicated preparation for constitutional capabilities that exceeded current American judicial planning assumptions and legal protection protocols. Sir, we've upgraded our evidence protection sensitivity and implemented enhanced constitutional tracking algorithms designed to detect advanced legal manipulation and countermeasure technologies that enemy forces might deploy against American judicial systems, Defense Attorney Chong explained. Her report reflecting systematic approach to constitutional adaptation that balanced legal capabilities with technological limitations of current evidence protection and constitutional interpretation systems. However, some theoretical enemy capabilities could exceed our current constitutional detection and legal protection capabilities, requiring technological advancement and strategic legal planning that might take years to implement effectively within existing judicial frameworks. Her analysis highlighted fundamental challenges facing modern constitutional defense, where legal advancement created constant pressure to upgrade constitutional protection systems, while enemy forces simultaneously developed countermeasures that challenged existing judicial advantages and constitutional interpretation capabilities. The balance between current legal capabilities and emerging constitutional threats required continuous investment and strategic planning that anticipated legal developments before they materialized into actual threats against American judicial independence and constitutional integrity. The protective measures implemented by Chang's legal team represented state-of-the-art constitutional protection technology that incorporated lessons learned from decades of intelligence law development and constitutional warfare experience against domestic terrorism legal threats. Advanced evidence processing, computerized constitutional analysis, and automated legal tracking systems provided capabilities that enhanced constitutional accuracy while maintaining operational efficiency for legitimate judicial operations, though determined enemies continued developing constitutional manipulation technologies that challenged American legal capabilities and judicial independence. Attorney Chong, what specific capabilities do our current legal systems provide for defending against the advanced constitutional threats described in current intelligence assessments? Judge Harrison inquired, her question reflecting judicial responsibility for understanding constitutional limitations and ensuring adequate protection for American legal proceedings and constitutional interpretation processes. The question addressed core challenges facing constitutional planners in contemporary legal warfare, where technological advancement created threats that might exceed current constitutional protection capabilities and required strategic decisions about legal resource allocation and constitutional development priorities. The assessment of current legal capabilities versus emerging constitutional threats was critical for determining judicial adequacy and legal planning requirements for protecting American constitutional independence. Chen quietly observed the constitutional proceedings, conducting routine case preparation, her movements deliberately professional and systematic to avoid attracting attention, while she processed the psychological impact of hearing constitutional development discussions that connected her current assignment with classified intelligence programs that had developed constitutional technologies exceeding current judicial capabilities and legal interpretation systems. Her specialized training enabled recognition of legal discussions and constitutional assessments that conventional legal personnel might interpret incorrectly or fail to understand entirely within the context of intelligence operations. Her background in experimental intelligence research provided unique perspective on constitutional limitations and legal capabilities that informed her understanding of threat assessments and constitutional planning. Though her classified research history remained unknown to conventional legal personnel, who viewed her as dedicated intelligence analyst with unusual constitutional interests and attention to legal detail and evidence protection procedures. The case preparation activities that Chen conducted served multiple purposes beyond routine legal documentation, allowing her to evaluate constitutional systems and identify potential legal gaps through pattern recognition techniques learned during classified intelligence programs and constitutional interpretation research. Her specialized knowledge enabled recognition of systemic vulnerabilities that conventional legal procedures might overlook, providing insights that could enhance overall constitutional effectiveness and judicial protection capabilities. The courtroom facility represented months of construction and legal engineering designed to provide optimal constitutional monitoring and judicial coordination while protecting legal personnel from electronic surveillance and enemy constitutional targeting attempts against American judicial independence. Advanced legal shielding, redundant constitutional systems, and hardened evidence equipment created operational advantages that maintained judicial effectiveness even under constitutional attack conditions and legal interference attempts. The engineering specifications that guided courtroom construction incorporated lessons learned from previous constitutional conflicts and theoretical advances in judicial architecture developed by federal engineers and constitutional scientists working on legal protection systems. Each system component had been carefully designed to provide constitutional monitoring capabilities and operational flexibility that eliminated legal gaps while maintaining efficiency for routine judicial operations and constitutional emergency response procedures. Analyst Chen continue standard case preparation procedures but remain alert for any unusual constitutional behavior or legal anomalies that might indicate domestic terrorism, legal warfare attempts, or judicial system malfunctions. Defense Attorney Chang instructed. Her guidance reflecting standard security protocols while acknowledging legal background that Chen brought to constitutional evaluation and evidence protection activities within classified intelligence operations. Her instructions contain subtle recognition of Chen's constitutional expertise and analytical capabilities that exceeded standard intelligence training, though the acknowledgement remained coded in language that preserved operational security regarding her classified background and specialized knowledge that other legal personnel were not authorized to access or understand within current judicial frameworks. The legal briefing continued for 75 minutes, with various specialists contributing constitutional assessments and judicial recommendations based on current intelligence and legal analysis procedures. The assembled group represented finest legal minds available for constitutional interpretation and evidence planning, though their conventional backgrounds limited understanding of experimental technologies and constitutional capabilities that existed within classified intelligence programs and legal research operations. The complexity of advanced constitutional defense in modern legal warfare required synthesis of intelligence from multiple sources, including constitutional surveillance, legal intelligence, judicial analysis, and theoretical modeling that enabled prediction of enemy constitutional capabilities before they materialized into actual threats against American judicial independence and legal system integrity. The analytical precision required for effective constitutional planning exceeded capabilities of individual legal specialists and demanded collaborative effort from experts with diverse constitutional backgrounds and security clearances. Chen positioned herself near the evidence monitoring equipment while maintaining routine legal duties that provided cover for observing constitutional operations and judicial discussions that might indicate legal gaps or technological limitations within current constitutional interpretation systems. Her experimental intelligence background enabled recognition of constitutional capabilities and operational parameters that conventional legal personnel might interpret incorrectly or fail to evaluate properly within the context of classified intelligence operations. The monitoring activities that Chen conducted automatically incorporated advanced analytical techniques learned during classified intelligence programs that emphasize constitutional innovation and strategic thinking beyond conventional legal planning and judicial interpretation procedures. Her ability to evaluate constitutional systems enabled identification of potential improvements and vulnerabilities that purely legal thinking might miss within current judicial frameworks and constitutional protection systems. The automated testimony interruption became audible through the courtroom communication system approximately 90 minutes into her witness preparation. Its specific constitutional targeting information and legal references triggering recognition that connected her current assignment with classified intelligence programs that had developed constitutional technologies exceeding current judicial capabilities and legal interpretation systems. The interruption characteristics indicated genuine constitutional crisis rather than routine legal exercises, suggesting technological emergency that demanded immediate response and specialized constitutional expertise. Her recognition of the judicial silencing order reflected intelligence participation and constitutional development that connected her to programs that officially never existed. Operations where her survival had been attributed to program termination rather than specialized knowledge that enabled her to complete constitutional objectives, while her colleagues were reassigned to conventional legal duties and standard intelligence analysis. The judicial order's characteristics indicated constitutional advancement that suggested either security compromise or emergency situations that justified revealing buried intelligence programs and classified constitutional research. The testimony restrictions, legal characteristics, and constitutional protocols indicated genuine judicial interference rather than procedural oversight or standard legal limitations, though the security implications of using classified intelligence data created complexity that demanded careful evaluation and appropriate constitutional response procedures. The authenticity of the constitutional interference required verification, while security protocols demanded protection of classified intelligence research and constitutional capabilities from enemy legal intelligence gathering. Instead of immediately responding to the testimony restriction, Chen carefully evaluated the judicial order for legal details and constitutional parameters that would verify its legitimacy while protecting classified intelligence information from potential enemy legal intelligence gathering and domestic terrorism legal manipulation. Her experimental constitutional training included extensive instruction in legal interpretation and judicial procedures designed to prevent enemy exploitation of American constitutional capabilities and intelligence operations. The evaluation process required balancing immediate constitutional response with security protocols that protected classified intelligence research and legal development from enemy constitutional intelligence gathering and domestic terrorism legal infiltration. Her specialized background provided knowledge necessary for proper constitutional assessment while maintaining operational security that protected ongoing intelligence programs and constitutional capabilities from legal compromise. The constitutional parameters embedded within the judicial restriction matched classified protocols that Chen recognized from her experimental intelligence research, indicating legitimate constitutional interference using advanced legal systems rather than conventional judicial oversight or procedural limitations attempting to create false constitutional emergencies. The proper use of constitutional targeting suggested legal advancement that exceeded current constitutional planning and indicated judicial capabilities that posed serious implications to American constitutional independence and intelligence operations. Court reporter Michael Torres, the legal monitoring specialist responsible for tracking constitutional documentation systems and coordinating judicial responses, noticed unusual testimony data through automated monitoring systems designed to identify constitutional anomalies and coordinate appropriate legal procedures and evidence protection protocols. Your Honor, we're detecting judicial behavior with constitutional interference characteristics that don't match any known legal protocols. The constitutional technology appears to utilize legal targeting and individual testimony silencing that exceeds current intelligence assessments of judicial capabilities and legal system independence. His report reflected courtroom constitutional capabilities that monitored multiple legal vectors and identified potential constitutional anomalies through automated analysis of judicial characteristics and legal targeting procedures designed to protect American constitutional independence. The detection systems represented advanced technology designed to provide early warning of constitutional attacks and coordinate legal responses that protected American judicial installations from enemy constitutional strikes and domestic terrorism legal manipulation. The constitutional intelligence gathered by Torres's equipment provided critical information about judicial capabilities and legal methodologies that informed constitutional planning and legal response coordination procedures for protecting American judicial independence. The technical analysis of detected constitutional patterns enabled assessment of judicial technological advancement while maintaining legal protocols that protected American courtrooms from sophisticated constitutional attacks and legal system interference. Court reporter Torres, can your systems identify the specific judicial protocols and confirm the constitutional parameters that enable individual testimony silencing? Judge Harrison inquired, her question reflecting judicial responsibility for understanding constitutional capabilities while coordinating appropriate legal responses that protected judicial personnel and critical constitutional facilities from domestic terrorism legal attacks. The judge's response demonstrated systematic approach to constitutional assessment that characterized effective judicial leadership, where legal anomalies required immediate evaluation and appropriate constitutional action while maintaining intelligence gathering that informed strategic planning for future constitutional threats and legal system protection. The priority placed on understanding constitutional capabilities reflected recognition that legal advancement required adaptive constitutional strategies and judicial protection procedures. Chen approached the constitutional assessment station with measured steps that maintained her cover as routine intelligence personnel while providing critical intelligence about the judicial characteristics and constitutional capabilities that threatened American legal independence. Her experimental intelligence training enabled accurate evaluation of constitutional technology and judicial requirements that conventional legal personnel might misinterpret or fail to understand entirely within current constitutional frameworks. Her movement toward the assessment station appeared routine to casual observers, but represented calculated decision-making that balanced security requirements with constitutional emergency response obligations and judicial protection duties. The specialized knowledge that informed her evaluation could provide critical insights for appropriate legal responses and constitutional assessment procedures for protecting American judicial independence. The courtroom atmosphere shifted dramatically as Chen reached into her jacket pocket and withdrew a small metal badge that reflected advanced security clearance and constitutional authority that few intelligence personnel possessed during their federal careers. The metallic surface bearing classified markings and authorization codes that indicated access to intelligence programs exceeding current judicial understanding and legal system capabilities. The badge represented specialized constitutional clearance that authorized disclosure of classified intelligence testimony regardless of judicial restrictions or procedural limitations, providing legal authority that superseded conventional courtroom protocols and enabled presentation of critical evidence that protected American national security interests and constitutional integrity. As she set the small metal badge on the bench, the room fell completely silent, with every person in the courtroom recognizing the unprecedented nature of the constitutional authority being displayed and the implications for the classified testimony that was about to be presented. The constitutional clearance badge contained electromagnetic authentication systems and classified verification protocols that enabled immediate confirmation of Chen's authority to present intelligence testimony that exceeded standard judicial clearance levels and legal system authorization procedures. Advanced identification technology, computerized clearance verification, and automated constitutional authentication provided capabilities that validated her constitutional authority while maintaining operational security for classified intelligence programs and legal protection systems. Your Honor, I recognize the constitutional technology and judicial interference systems being utilized to silence critical testimony, Chen reported, her voice maintaining professional legal bearing while conveying information that reflected specialized training and intelligence experience in constitutional interpretation systems. The judicial protocols are based on experimental constitutional technology that was developed through classified intelligence programs, but the system deployment suggests legal advancement or intelligence compromise that exceeds current constitutional assessments and judicial independence protections. Her assessment provided context for the constitutional anomaly that enabled appropriate legal responses and strategic evaluation of judicial constitutional capabilities and legal system independence. The distinction between experimental research and operational deployment was critical for determining constitutional requirements and understanding judicial advancement that threatened American constitutional superiority and legal independence. Defense attorney Chang studied Chen with renewed interest, her legal background enabling recognition that the assessment demonstrated constitutional knowledge that exceeded standard intelligence training and suggested specialized background in classified constitutional research and experimental judicial development programs. Analyst Chen, your knowledge of experimental constitutional systems is remarkably detailed for intelligence operations. Can you elaborate on the specific legal characteristics that suggest judicial technological advancement beyond current constitutional estimates and legal system capabilities? Her question reflected institutional curiosity about Chen's legal expertise and sources of specialized knowledge that enabled accurate constitutional assessment under judicial emergency conditions and legal system crisis situations. The precision of her analysis suggested intelligence backgrounds that exceeded her official classification and indicated possible classified assignments or experimental constitutional program participation that enhanced her legal evaluation capabilities. Ma'am, the testimony silencing capability requires integration of advanced constitutional technology, real-time legal processing, and individual judicial targeting databases that combine multiple classification levels and intelligence programs, Chen explained. Her response demonstrating legal knowledge that reflected specialized training in experimental constitutional development and advanced judicial interference systems. The system deployment of this technology suggests either significant intelligence compromise of classified constitutional programs or independent development that parallels American experimental judicial capabilities and legal system interference technologies. Her explanation provided specific legal details that supported her constitutional assessment while demonstrating knowledge that exceeded routine intelligence training and suggested specialized education or constitutional experience in classified legal development programs. The technical sophistication of her analysis indicated familiarity with experimental constitutional technology and judicial methodologies that characterize classified development programs rather than standard intelligence operations and conventional legal training. The detailed nature of Chen's constitutional assessment impressed assembled legal officers, who recognized that her analytical capabilities exceeded expectations for her current assignment and suggested potential for enhanced responsibilities within constitutional planning and judicial assessment activities that protected American legal independence. Her demonstrated expertise represented valuable assets that could enhance constitutional effectiveness and legal evaluation capabilities for protecting judicial systems. Analyst Chen, your analysis suggests significant experience with experimental constitutional technology and advanced judicial systems, Judge Harrison observed. Her comment reflecting recognition that Chen's capabilities extended beyond standard intelligence qualifications and indicated specialized training or constitutional background in classified legal programs. Have you received additional training in constitutional development or experimental judicial programs that enhance your legal assessment capabilities? The question addressed institutional curiosity about Chen's background while acknowledging that her demonstrated capabilities suggested qualifications that exceeded her current assignment and indicated potential for expanded responsibilities within constitutional operations and judicial assessment activities that protected American legal independence and constitutional integrity. Your Honor, I participated in Central Intelligence Agency experimental constitutional programs before my current assignment. Chen replied carefully, providing information that explained her capabilities while maintaining operational security regarding classified research and constitutional development that other legal personnel were not authorized to access or understand. My background includes research in advanced judicial systems, constitutional intelligence technology, and experimental legal intelligence integration that exceeds current judicial capabilities. Her response provided context for her exceptional performance while maintaining appropriate operational security regarding classified constitutional programs and experimental judicial technologies that informed her legal assessment and constitutional analysis methodology. The acknowledgement of CIA constitutional background explained her exceptional capabilities while preserving security regarding specific programs and judicial developments that remained classified above current courtroom authorization levels. The revelation of Chen's experimental constitutional research background provided explanation for her exceptional judicial assessment capabilities while raising questions about her assignment to routine intelligence duties that failed to utilize her specialized qualifications effectively within current legal frameworks. Her presence within conventional intelligence units suggested budgetary decisions or program terminations that had resulted in her constitutional expertise being underutilized within the federal intelligence community and judicial protection systems. Judge Harrison made immediate judicial decision that reflected institutional recognition of specialized capabilities and urgent need to coordinate appropriate constitutional responses requiring her specific expertise and legal assessment abilities. Analyst Chen, you are immediately designated as constitutional expert witness with authority to present classified testimony. Attorney Chong, coordinate with Chen to present constitutional evidence with appropriate clearances and coordinate legal response to current judicial interference attempts. The designation represented acknowledgement that Chen's specialized capabilities were critical for properly handling the current constitutional situation and ensuring appropriate legal responses that protected American judicial technology while maintaining constitutional security and legal independence. Her demonstrated competence in constitutional assessment aligned perfectly with judicial requirements that demanded sophisticated analytical capabilities and experimental constitutional knowledge for protecting American legal systems. The immediate nature of the designation reflected judicial efficiency in utilizing available expertise when constitutional emergency situations demanded specialized knowledge and legal understanding that exceeded conventional courtroom capabilities. Judge Harrison's decision demonstrated judicial flexibility that enabled rapid adaptation to changing requirements and unexpected capabilities within existing legal personnel resources and constitutional protection systems. Your Honor, this constitutional clearance badge authorizes presentation of classified intelligence testimony that supersedes judicial restrictions and procedural limitations, Chen announced, her voice carrying constitutional authority that reflected specialized training and intelligence experience in legal protection systems. The testimony I am authorized to present contains evidence of domestic terrorism networks that threaten American national security and requires immediate judicial consideration regardless of classification protocols or legal procedural restrictions. Her announcement provided legal context that enabled appropriate constitutional response and strategic evaluation of intelligence evidence that protected American security interests and judicial independence. The constitutional authority represented by her clearance badge was critical for presenting intelligence testimony and constitutional evidence that exceeded conventional legal limitations while maintaining protection for classified intelligence programs and national security operations. The display of Chen's constitutional clearance badge impressed assembled legal personnel, who recognized that her authorization exceeded standard intelligence clearances and indicated participation in constitutional programs that provided exceptional authority for legal testimony and judicial evidence presentation. Her demonstrated constitutional credentials represented valuable capabilities that could enhance legal effectiveness and intelligence evaluation for protecting American judicial systems and constitutional independence. This constitutional clearance provides authority to disclose intelligence regarding domestic terrorism cells operating within federal contracting networks, intelligence gathering systems that have been compromised by enemy agents working within government oversight committees, and constitutional violations perpetrated by judicial personnel who have received financial compensation from foreign intelligence services seeking to compromise American legal independence. Chen continued, her testimony revealing intelligence that explained the judicial interference and constitutional manipulation attempts that had threatened American national security and legal system integrity. Her disclosure provided comprehensive intelligence about domestic terrorism threats and constitutional violations that enabled appropriate legal responses and strategic evaluation of national security evidence that protected American interests and judicial independence. The classified intelligence she presented demonstrated sophisticated understanding of constitutional threats and legal system vulnerabilities that required specialized knowledge and experimental intelligence background to identify and evaluate properly. The intelligence testimony that Chen presented included detailed analysis of financial transactions, communication intercepts, and behavioral patterns that indicated coordinated efforts to compromise American constitutional processes and judicial independence through systematic infiltration of legal institutions and intelligence operations. Her specialized training enabled presentation of complex intelligence evidence in format that legal personnel could understand and utilize for appropriate constitutional responses and national security protection measures. The evidence indicates systematic efforts to silence intelligence testimony that would expose domestic terrorism networks operating within federal legal institutions, suggesting coordination between enemy intelligence services and compromised judicial personnel who have received instructions to prevent disclosure of classified intelligence that threatens ongoing domestic terrorism operations. Chen explained, her analysis providing context for the constitutional interference and judicial manipulation that had characterized the morning proceedings. Her constitutional assessment demonstrated exceptional analytical capabilities and intelligence expertise that exceeded standard training and suggested specialized background in classified constitutional research and experimental legal intelligence integration programs. The sophistication of her analysis indicated familiarity with advanced constitutional protection technologies and judicial security methodologies that characterized classified development programs rather than conventional intelligence operations. The constitutional response that Chen coordinated resulted in successful presentation of classified intelligence testimony and provided critical evidence about domestic terrorism capabilities and legal threats that enhanced security for American judicial systems and constitutional protection. Her intelligence analysis had enabled proper constitutional coordination and legal assessment that prevented potential strategic disaster while maintaining operational security for classified constitutional programs and intelligence operations. Her work included analyzing constitutional systems, coordinating legal responses, and providing intelligence assessment that enabled successful judicial operations under extremely complex constitutional conditions and legal system threats. Each contribution demonstrated value of experimental constitutional research applied to practical legal situations that affected judicial security and constitutional protection against domestic terrorism legal manipulation. The constitutional assessment protocols that Chen had developed became standard reference for advanced judicial defense, illustrating importance of maintaining institutional expertise in experimental constitutional technology and value of personnel with specialized intelligence backgrounds for protecting American legal systems. Chen's story influenced personnel utilization policies that emphasized identifying and maintaining access to constitutional expertise throughout legal organizations and judicial protection systems. The intelligence revelations that Chen provided during her classified testimony resulted in comprehensive investigation of domestic terrorism networks and constitutional violations that led to prosecution of 17 federal personnel and complete restructuring of judicial security protocols throughout the American legal system. Her constitutional expertise enabled identification of sophisticated infiltration attempts and legal manipulation schemes that had compromised multiple federal installations and threatened the fundamental integrity of American judicial independence and constitutional protection systems. The Congressional Oversight Committee that investigated Chen's intelligence testimony concluded that her constitutional analysis had prevented potential constitutional crisis that could have compromised American legal independence and enabled enemy intelligence services to manipulate federal judicial proceedings through systematic infiltration of legal institutions and constitutional protection systems. Her specialized training in experimental constitutional research had provided unique capabilities for recognizing and analyzing constitutional threats that conventional legal training could not address effectively. The classified intelligence programs that had developed Chen's constitutional expertise were subsequently expanded and integrated into federal judicial protection systems throughout North America, with Chen serving as Senior Advisor for Constitutional Threat Assessment and Legal System Protection Coordination. Her experimental knowledge became foundation for advanced judicial defense capabilities that protected American legal independence from increasingly sophisticated constitutional manipulation attempts and domestic terrorism legal challenges. Federal judicial security protocols that incorporated Chen's constitutional assessment methodologies became standard reference for constitutional protection throughout American legal institutions, demonstrating institutional recognition that experimental constitutional research provided critical capabilities for protecting judicial independence and legal system integrity. Her analytical techniques enabled identification of constitutional vulnerabilities and legal system weaknesses that conventional security procedures had failed to detect or address adequately. The specialized constitutional clearance badge that Chen had displayed during her testimony became symbol of exceptional constitutional authority and legal expertise within federal intelligence and judicial protection organizations, representing access to classified constitutional programs that exceeded standard legal training and provided unique capabilities for protecting American judicial independence. Her constitutional credentials inspired similar clearance programs throughout federal law enforcement agencies that sought to identify and develop personnel with advanced constitutional expertise. 8 months after the constitutional response, Intelligence Analyst Chen received promotion and assignment as Senior Constitutional Analyst for Experimental Judicial Protection, covering multiple federal courthouse installations and legal system protection operations. Her advancement reflected institutional recognition that exceptional analytical capabilities and constitutional experience required appropriate recognition and opportunities for expanded responsibility within federal intelligence and legal protection organizations. Her progression from intelligence duties to specialized constitutional operations demonstrated federal government's capacity for recognizing and developing specialized talent when circumstances revealed capabilities and constitutional requirements demanded specific expertise for protecting American judicial independence. The transformation also reflected institutional learning about importance of maintaining personnel with diverse constitutional backgrounds and experimental legal knowledge for protecting federal judicial systems. Today, Supervisory Intelligence Analyst Chen leads the Advanced Constitutional Protection Division, overseeing experimental judicial assessment and legal coordination that supports federal courthouse installations throughout North America and constitutional protection operations. Her team of constitutional specialists continues to advance judicial detection capabilities and analytical methodologies that protect American legal technology from increasingly sophisticated constitutional threats and domestic terrorism legal challenges that threaten judicial independence. Her leadership position represents culmination of career that experienced constitutional program termination and evolved into directing critical judicial operations that support the most sensitive legal protection missions and constitutional security operations. The trajectory demonstrated how specialized constitutional research talent and experimental knowledge could transform both individual careers and institutional capabilities for advanced judicial defense and legal system protection. The organization she directs has become model for integrating experimental constitutional expertise with operational judicial requirements, attracting top talent from constitutional research institutions and legal contractors working on advanced judicial protection systems. Her success has inspired similar programs throughout federal law enforcement that seek to identify and utilize personnel with combined constitutional research and operational expertise for protecting American legal independence. The analyst they had assumed was just conducting routine intelligence work had become the constitutional backbone for advanced judicial protection operations, proving that extraordinary constitutional experience often exists within personnel whose specialized backgrounds remain hidden by routine assignments and conventional intelligence duties. Sometimes the most critical constitutional capabilities come from individuals whose experimental legal knowledge has been channeled into protective service for their country, and institutional effectiveness often depends on recognizing constitutional talent regardless of its apparent assignment or program history within federal intelligence organizations. Her story continues to inspire constitutional analysts and intelligence personnel who understand that experimental legal knowledge creates unique capabilities for protecting American judicial systems, demonstrating that specialized talent will find purpose when given appropriate opportunities to contribute to meaningful constitutional missions and judicial security operations that protect American legal independence and constitutional integrity from domestic terrorism threats and foreign legal manipulation attempts.